There have been some developments over the last 24, 48 hours that seem to be consuming this town of yours right at the moment. And that is, of course, the reports about possible interference by the president in an investigation. What should we make of this? Is this something just of the moment, or is this something that lasts as an issue?
Well, I'm going to have to wait and see what really comes out. I personally felt it's overblown, like everything they do against Trump. There's so much bitterness that he won the election against a favorite Hillary Clinton, and a lot of the media makes a lot of effort to pick on him all the time. But I think we're going to have to wait and see what the so-called allegations really are. But so far they've been pretty thin.
Well, that's a good question, actually, about whether it's a question of it never happened, or if it did happen, what's the big deal? The FBI director does work ultimately for the president.
I've actually said that, what is the big deal? This is way overblown, but I haven't seen all the information. I'll have to see all the information before I make a final decision.
And is the Congress a good place to get that information, do you think?
Well, it's one of the better places to get that information. We were at least able to ask questions and delve into these matters. But, it's always tough dealing with whoever's in the White House.
So, because we did come to talk about tax reform, tell us your initial instinct. Will all of this interfere with tax reform? Will it slow it down? Will it change it? Or will you go about your business?
Well, it doesn't help tax reform. But let's face it, I think virtually everybody realizes that this is a year where we really need to get both parties working together and do tax reform that will help business explode and help get this economy going again, because it hasn't been going as well as it should. Although I think Trump has added quite a bit to it, and it's done better than a lot of people thought it would. But it'll do a lot better if we do real true tax reform.
Now you mentioned, Senator, this is a year. 2 days ago, we had Representative Brady, the chairman of the House Ways and Means Committee, who said he'd like to get it done this calendar year. Then we had the majority leader on yesterday, Mitch McConnell, who said, well, this Congress. So that would be by the end of next year. Is there a chance it won't get done even in this Congress?
Well, I'd like to see it done this year. And I have to say that Chairman Brady and I just met again yesterday, and his job used to be held by the now Speaker. So I get along well with both of them, and they're both really good people, and they're dedicated to try and get this done. The question is, can they take what they've already passed in the House bill and do it so that the Senate is going to be able to take it and move it forward?
Well, exactly. One of the things that Chairman Brady said to us is that the goal is to have a single bill that the White House and the Senate all sign off on. A bit different from what happened in health care, for example. Who's going to put that bill together as a practical matter?
Well, it's going to have to be put together by the Ways and Means Committee and the Speaker, and by the Finance Committee over in the Senate. And we work very well together, so I think we can do it. The question is, will the Democrats cooperate at all? So far, there's a lot of bitterness over this last election, and a lot of two-bit bitterness as far as I'm concerned. Now, some of them are coming out of that mode, but when they shut down the whole Congress, wouldn't even show up for committee hearings, wouldn't show up for committee meetings, it showed how bitter they were. But we've been able to get past that particular time, and it's been, for 3 months, they've tried to hold up everything Trump wants to do. And there's a lot of bitterness towards Donald Trump because he beat Hillary Clinton. And we've got to get through that kind of the juvenile tit-for-tat that's really been going on with the Democrats, and some Republicans too.
And is it possible? I mean, I remember 1986 when Senator Bill Bradley came across the aisle as part of the last fundamental tax reform. And you yourself worked with Senator Kennedy up here to get some major legislation through.
That's right. A lot of major legislation.
Well, so has that day gone by? I mean, can we ever recoup that?
It's been very difficult, but we do have some people on the Finance Committee. I do think that Senator Wyden, as liberal as he is, wants to do work, wants to get things done. And there are some others on the Finance Committee on the Democrat side that might be willing to work with us as well. I'm hopeful, and they know that if they'll work with me, we'll try to do the best bipartisan bill we possibly can, and it'll be in the best interest of the country. But there's also that other side of the coin. They really hate Donald Trump. And frankly, I don't see why. The guy he's a winner. He's a character. He's somebody that they could have a lot of fun with if they knew how to do that. And I think he's somebody who would recognize good work being done. I don't think there's any question about that. And he has some really outstanding people around him. We just had the new trade representative in today, and the Secretary of Commerce, who's one of the best people I've ever seen. Multi-millionaire, many times a billionaire, really. I said, what are you doing this for? And they said, I want to help the country. And then take Steve Mnuchin. I didn't even know Steve Mnuchin. Right. He's the Secretary of Treasury. I said, what? You're going to lose a lot of money. He said, I know. He said, well, that's okay. He said, I just want to serve my country. And I found people like that for the first time, I shouldn't say for the first time, but really together, really wanting to help the country, wanting to get us out of these messes. Right. But there's some hatred for Donald Trump, and I kind of understand that to a degree since he beat Hillary, but it's time to get over that and start working together.
So one of the things that both Chairman Brady and the Majority Leader agreed on is that this needs to be revenue-neutral tax reform in order to make it permanent. In order to do that, you're going to have to come up with some real revenues to make up for some of the cuts. Where do you look for those revenues?
Well, there are lots of places to look for revenues. I mean, it may mean that we've got to cut back on some programs that aren't doing the job anyway, and there are plenty of those around. The question is, there's always some people who support each one of those programs. But I'm not as caught up in revenue neutrality as some of the other people are. I would rather have this country go forward and take a chance than just sit back and not get anything done. But I agree with revenue neutrality as a goal and something that we should all try to meet. And we're probably going to have to meet that because of the revenue neutrality attitude around here.
Well, in meeting that goal, the House has proposed this border adjustment tax that a fair number of senators, including on the Republican side, have expressed, I think it's fair to say, some skepticism about. Is it feasible for a border adjustment tax to make it through the Senate?
Well, I have to say that I'm not sure that the one that's been proposed has much of a chance of going through, but I'm open to looking to some way of finding a proposal that really people can come behind and in a bipartisan way and do. But it's going to be hard in that particular area because there are all kinds of trade-offs and ifs and that, and that's in whatever you do on tax reform, especially with regard to that. So I'm very concerned about that, and I'm not sure that our citizens aren't going to pay the freight if we do that. So if we do it, it's got to be really thought through, and it's got to be something that benefits our country, not foreign countries that don't benefit our country.
One last question. In a word, does it have to be 15% for the corporate rate? Because that's what the president's proposing. Some people have said, 20, 25% might be okay if we can get to revenue neutrality.
I really think the president did us a great favor in saying we should get corporate tax rates down to 15%. If we could do that, this country would take off like you can't believe. It's very unlikely that we're going to get it down to 15, but the closest we can get down to 15, the better off we're going to be.